Welcome to MCN and our 2024 road-going Supersport shootout. Now, in this video, we have got the Honda CBR600RR, the Kawasaki ZX-6R, the Ducati Panigale V2, and the Triumph Street Triple 765RS. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is this a Supersport bike? Hasn't got a fairing, hasn't got clip-ons? Well, you know, the Supersport world has changed quite a lot in recent years, and it's not just bikes like these that are kind of regarded as Supersport. You know, even in racing, Supersport aren't just 600s anymore. Balancing rules and Evo rules means that bikes like these race against bikes like those. And in the real world, Supersport bikes kind of disappeared for a long time because people simply weren't buying them. So we've kind of got to readjust our brain to think, what is a Supersport bike? And we think that the Street Triple is a Supersport bike, and not only is it a Supersport bike, we think it's the best all-round Supersport bike money can buy. Why is that? Well, let's sort of delve deep into what makes this bike tick, because it's got Supersport genes running through it like a stick of rock. So, you know, this bike used to be regarded as the more road-friendly, softer version of the Daytona 675 back in the day, but that disappeared, and that kind of left Triumph to develop this bike. And this is really what the Daytona would have been if Triumph had continued developing it. It's a Supersport bike through and through, from the chassis, absolute beautiful chassis, 765 engine, which this was updated in 2023, got a little bit more power, 128 bhp, got some chassis mods, jacked up rear end, faster steering, new electronics, slightly smaller fuel tank. To ride, this gives you the pure Supersport experience. It is incredible. The engine, very free revving, very quick, sounds like an amazing triple, always does. Sounds like a Moto 2 bike, which is no surprise because Triumph supply the Moto 2 grid with this engine. But despite its performance, it's really tractable. So 3 cylinders, 765, you can poodle along in top gear, you can be lazy with the revs, it's got a lot of grunt, so you don't always have to ride it like a maniac, although quite often the Triumph loves being ridden like a maniac. And then you've got the chassis. So this bike handles beautifully. This is one of the best sorted sports bikes money can buy of any capacity. You know, it's a bit like my beloved GSX-R 750. It's got just the right balance of power and handling. The grip and the way this bike steers is among the best you could ever hope for from a road bike. The suspension is plush, it's controlled, the bike rolls into corners beautifully, it's really, really stable, and with its Pirelli Supercoursers on it, you just never run out of grip. The brakes are really strong too. The previous generation RS brakes were quite wooden, and it had quite harsh suspension. The one before that, the 2017, was kind of a little bit milder, but this Triumph have really made this plush and supportive at the same time. The brakes are really, really strong, and you know, through a set of B-road corners, it is just sublime. But that's the Supersport genes. The reason it's so amazing as an all-rounder is because it's a naked, because you know, a lot of riders gave up on bikes like this because they couldn't fit on them anymore. And this bike is really spacious. I'm 6 foot tall and I could ride this all day. It's really comfortable. I could take this touring, I could go on the track day on it, I could go commuting. It just does everything. It really lets you have your Supersport cake and eat it. And it's really well made. It's got lean sensitive electronics, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's just really, really, really good. But despite me waxing lyrical over it, for some people, only a screaming 600 with a fairing and clip-ons will do. And that's where these two come in. So these have re-emerged after being gone for many years, in the UK at least, because Honda and Kawasaki never really thought it was worthwhile giving them the Euro 5 treatment. But I guess these bikes exist now really is so they can go racing, because this new Supersport class with Evo rules is more and more popular now. So Honda could probably sell a few road bikes off the back of the racing success. So if we start with the Kawasaki first, Kawasaki kind of only disappeared for a couple of years, but it's back. It's got engine mods to bring it up to Euro 5. It's got a colour dash, slightly different looks. It's got a little bit of aero, it's got some wings there, but it's essentially the same bike as it was before. And then we've got the CBR600RR. So, I mean, this bike really isn't that different to the original 2003 model. You know, even the tail unit and the width of the seat looks very dated now. You know, it's 20 odd years old, back when bikes were quite fat and they didn't have little slim tail units like the Triumph. So Honda have done more to this bike really to keep it up to date. It did evolve over the years. I mean, Kawasaki actually changed them quite radically over the years, but the Honda was they always chipped away at it. And this bike was out in Asia a few years ago with its wings, and now finally it's been brought back into the UK. So it's got kind of Fireblade style styling, it's got a colour dash, it's got full electronics, it's got an IMU, which the Kawasaki hasn't got. So it's got a quick shifter, lean sensitive, rider aids, all the bells and whistles. And to kind of show that it's really built for racing, it's got these new forks, which are longer than they used to be. And the top of the forks stick up from the yokes quite a long way. It looks like a proper race bike. And the reason they do that is so the racers can jack the front end of the bikes up. So when their hotshot riders smash the brakes, they don't endo. So, you know, this really is a racetrack refugee. Which one is the best, I ask you? Well, none have really changed over the years. So, you know, if you read any old group test, 600 group tests, the results will be exactly as they were. So if you liked these bikes before, you'll still like them. If you couldn't get on with them before, you still won't now. Nothing's really changed, which is why we're kind of leaning towards bikes like this for real world riding. But the Kawasaki, if you were to look up the word Supersport in the dictionary, you would see the Kawasaki. This is everything we know and love about a Supersport bike. It's got a revvy, angry engine. It's raw, it's urgent. It's actually, of all of these bikes, when we're performance testing them, the best accelerating, the easiest to get off the line. Strangely, it's really short geared. You can almost pull away in 6th gear on this bike. So it's kind of not like a peaky, narrow revving Supersport bike we kind of imagine. It is relatively tractable, but it's very cramped. So, you know, this bike is for Sunday morning blasts and track days basically, but it is a pure Supersport bike. And these two are about £1,000 less than this. This is mid-11s and these are kind of mid-10s really. So this is the angry one. This is the one that really gets your juices flowing. And the Honda is kind of as it was before. It feels a little bit milder, slightly smaller engine. This is a 636, so it hasn't quite got the torque. It's quite long geared, so it's not that urgent when you're riding it. And it doesn't really need its wings because this bike it's not a natural born wheelier, but the wings are kind of cool anyway. But it's very refined. Typical Honda, when it came out, the quality of this bike was just off the scale. And it still is now. It's just a beautiful, lovely bike to live with that you're going to enjoy polishing in your garage. But it does have a Supersport raw edge as well. You know, it just loves to be revved. It sounds amazing when you're actually pinging it off the limiter. And it handles beautifully as well. Both of these bikes, I mean, if you were to take these bikes around a racetrack, as we've done many, many, many times before, there would be tenths in it. And it would all depend on what the track was, who was riding it. They're very, very close. So if you want the angry one, have the Kawasaki. If you want the more refined one, go for the Honda. And then that brings me on to the Ducati. So the Ducati, it's funny, isn't it? When you think of Ducatis, you think of super bikes. You don't really think of super sport bikes. But really, Ducati have had a super sport bike in their range ever since the 748, which was the baby 916. So you had the 748, that turned into the 749 and the 848, than the 899 Panigale, the 899 Panigale, the V2 Panigale that we see here. So they've always been waving the Supersport flag, even though the capacity of this is bigger than a 916 of an old superbike really. So again, though, that kind of definition of a Supersport bike is kind of stretched a little bit. You know, Supersport bikes aren't just 600s anymore. This is a little bit more money than these, quite a lot more money, but it's a Ducati and it is special. You know, everything from the billet aluminium yokes, you've got the single-sided swing arm. So in 2020, this turned from the 959 to the V2. So it got V4 aping bodywork with that aggressive nose, which looks absolutely fantastic. It went from a double-sided swing arm to a single-sided swing arm, and it looks like a Ducati race bike, and it feels every inch like a Ducati race bike. It's the most powerful of all the bikes here. It's the fastest of all the bikes here, unsurprisingly. But it's still got Supersport genes. When you ride this bike, it's nothing like the V4. It's probably as fast as the V4 in the real world. It probably laps as fast as the V4 in the real world with normal riders aboard, but it's very easy to ride. It thrives on revs. It's really agile. The riding position is probably the most modern day race kind of riding position now. It's got quite wide splay bars, but very low for riders who get their elbow down. For tall riders like me, it's pretty roomy. There's a lot of room between the seat and the pegs, and it kind of feels quite raw. When you're on the road, you just wish you could take it to a racetrack. You just know that you're probably only using 1 or 2 or 3% of what it's capable of. And when you stop riding and you sit back and have a look at it, it is, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it is the beautiful one of these. This is the elegant, luxurious way to get your Supersport kicks. And in this black color, satin black with these gloss black accents, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, you know, coming back to the reason we're doing this test, you know, we're kind of celebrating the emergence of the Supersport class again. And really, the Triumph is the best all-rounder. This is the Supersport bike of our generation, no question. You can have your cake and eat it, like I say. You can do anything with this bike. You can have a lot of fun on it. You can be sensible on it. It's a bike that you can use all the time. But, you know, if you want something really raw and aggressive, go for the Japanese. And if you want something quite fancy and quite special, then the V2 would be our choice all day long. So we've had a lot of fun making this video and doing this test. These bikes are they just make you feel alive, and I can't wait to ride them again. So we're going to go and do that. Thanks very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos like this coming very soon.